Inti na yen a ye NDC side no yen na ye doso.
Na so budi ba omi achi o.
Wow, we need to.
Wow.
As if we don't have to campaign as well.
Wow.
Afe a drew point I was say yefa a vote on the motion for another loan agreement no. Yen na ye doso e wo parliament. Inti speaker Oma or the question no to from say with all those in favor nanka I no one more can I na no I kind was so loud no. Speaker had to rule in favor of the no's because it was so obvious and yen and I doso our chamber no.
Wow.
And because of that thing they were trying to push on the last day did not go through. Inti so I'll share no as an example you understand the value of numbers in parliament. So sure, there's something going around. Say majority leader no what they say as an emergency sitting there. The point being, say now that they are going to try and bring their members into the chamber, which makes you understand the value of having a majority. They will make sure it passes through, and once they can marshal their numbers, the guarantee is more or less there. And he said, Debia me boss asam no so say, yen endeavor to vote for yen MPs no. So can say NDC mra. Na niama ekoso no. We should either put a stop to the bad governance or the things that have been done that are not in favor of Ghanaians. No, we should reverse them now. The president cannot act on his own.
That's right.
Bibia obey no. It was so order parliament. So ultimately, na say oni ninkrofo wa parliament ene ne ya adwen ba akwa. De oye no oye kwa. So we say ampasa o pese NDC ba ebetina akonwa kese no so. Na say won ye adwuma emma ye nya sa majority e wa parliament ma. Na che say wo pese ye bebregu. And with what is happening no, there be aye dru no, wo hwe niam akosu pi no. We need to send a strong message that enough is enough. But beyond that no, it's not just about winning the election. It's about what you do in the aftermath of the election. Oh, election, no. And no, na debi adie dede. Sebe, it's very important. And no, NMA government be bad power. But beyond that, if you don't have that political will, number one, now nyasa tuminu ewo parliament more. The opesa no won't me, which means that you will come and you will let people down. In Tisasana, I'm always really harping on it, is to let people understand the very direct link between what you have in parliament and what's happening in the executive. Because our system no na yedi ejuma.
And by drumming home, sir, message, do you get a sense of appreciation? I mean, based on the number of days I've been saying, the relevance of having the numbers.
Me wajidi because so okay bibi na wan church mu say wenti and I was say yes idea. Sometimes people don't appreciate the value of it because sometimes parliament no yena debia tim did say but the work that happens in parliament on the blind side of the public I trust a committee jumani na ekoso no committee work na cameras no NC so into nobody actually knows the amount of work that's happening there, so all you see is parts of the debates that happen on the floor.
True.
Just says so far and no as the only thing or parliament ma, you might assume say but the system of democracy that we are running includes a very, very dynamic and very active parliamentary legislative arm. And I believe said repeating it is bringing more people's attention to the fact say if we really want our democracy to work effectively for us, then we must empower the arms of government. But I believe say Samisha said President Mahama all corner rounds with regards to what is going to be done when it comes to corruption. I'm happy about that because you see, baby, near the levels of corruption we can't continue pretending that it is normal and it is okay. It is not. Because if you want to draw the direct line or the between corruption and what is happening, for example, say ABR, it was say procurement be also a hospital be ye betuto enro ema wonama eba ho whatever the medications may be. Na se obi afa adwen say ono sika na ye de abasa onfan to sa edru no onto obe divert e dia kostoke ono anim pharmacy.
Wow.
It is a patients be ba hospital hona omohwehwe nra. The hospital pharmacy itself, which should have all of those medications, no, doesn't have it. Now you're directing Ipakrono say, oh, pharmacy where I want chain hey. So that medication was procured specifically for the hospital. Na se nipa krono eni sika obetimi akoto saa drone wo saa pharmacy na any hospital na obi divert sika na akọ na. What that means is someone could die as a result of that. That is a direct link between corruption and your life. Inti abato na ye kono. It is an indication of where we've reached. We must understand that there is no invisible link between corruption and our well-being, corruption and our economy, corruption and our stability. It is directly linked. And one when sometimes the impression and they say, oh, na me say me who to me directly. But if you understand that corruption is linked to your well-being, in my case, I would defend my party. NDC Abaya, we say we're going to deal with this. That has a direct impact on you. It will have an impact on your fuel prices, on your food prices, on your NHIS card, whether it works or not, whether a draw a pharmacy, a hospital, government hospital, and not somewhere else, for example, whether you have the correct equipment being procured, whether the roads are being built properly, whether the road tolls, sikana yetia for road tolls, whether it's actually going to repair roads or whether it's being diverted to somewhere else. All of these things affect you. It is all said the number of accidents has increased because the roads are bad. You have a roads and highways ministry. You have road tolls in place, for example. And all of these are to ensure that you have maintenance of that roads. Poor maintenance of the roads because of somebody's corruption will cost you your life because all you are trying to do is get from one place to the other.
But in the case of recklessness, in this case, a road tolls everywhere. Even the number of years says he can account for no. And then I'll bet my far back to us.
Which is exactly why I keep emphasizing on the fact that we have to have that majority in parliament. Because and unfortunately, it looks as though more and more, a lot of things that are happening, for example, in parliament, government party no SA, me person MPs ni no ASA. So sometimes there are times when, so for example, let's go back into recent history. This issue with the past finance minister.
That's right, Keno Foriata.
Yes, there was a group of members of parliament, MP before, they were saying say I was so or resign. And now say yes, a president who also you need. I think we saw what happened. After the censure motion, Yenin Raya called Chamber Nanka was say your Twaba in favor of the motion, say indeed he should resign or should be impeached. Suddenly, one of Macrapa a year press conference, Eddie Kain, a cancer papa non resign.
They be defending.
Exactly. Knowing so the point is, if we are now creating a system where even when the thing is not right, because party say you should align and do that, then we have a problem. It means that we are not protecting the public. We are not representing them properly.
Because I've seen a couple of times I have dissenting views as against party position. At the end of money, as I thrive over MPP was against.
Well, I can't speak for what happens there except for what we all witnessed. But I certainly believe, said on issues with regards to good governance. No. Once our party is in power, we will not sit down to be kona enko because it will affect all of us. And we all came there with the intention, say, and not to do something simply in party interest. And see, that has been the narrative for this election, because say we need to reach that point in our politics where for the campaign, it has to stop. We've seen where lies have gotten us. That's why we're here today. Inti say your campaign. Now, once we're in power, we are making sure we're staying on the straight and narrow, and we are not closing our ears. Now I can say, we're in power now. That is the wrong attitude. because now Ghanaians are also more discerning. Now, yant now enka say, well, politics and democracy in Tisana. You see, we need to stop the overemphasis on elections as the only benchmark of good governance or of a democracy that is very genuine and thriving.
I didn't know.
Because then the elections are rigged all over. Does that mean that you are doing the right thing? You get into power through elections to do what is right. Inti se wunya sa power no na se obetina akunya no so na wonye wedwuma no, then you're actually letting the people down. It's a betrayal of trust. And this is a contractor as a party. NDC, which way you move tonight, it says unity, stability, and development. And why? Those are key pillars to good governance, which means that we must be living by those particular principles and the principles of good governance in general. Inti, we cannot afford to betray that. Now, Sabio, me papa, Nyankopon friend it would be very strange for me to move away from certain principles. Both my parents raised me in a certain way. I just say, no crano, but you have to find a gentle way of saying it. But you must be able to speak the truth, because as a representative of the people, no. So when to me can no cry, then why are you there?
Ghana no cry. What is the truth about my Ghana tibia you wom? And baby was here. No cry.
We're too far behind. In fact, it looks as if we've done fast rewind in our development, in our positioning. Na nyamiya dominti, and we are the last man standing, so to speak. So the occurs all around Africa. You should realize that we really are very blessed and we are very fortunate. And my fan say automatically no, that is the way to always be. We must understand that the people of Ghana have chosen to be tolerant, because Omar Fadrin say, okay, elections no in a few months no ye elections into the empeno ye the battle no and a position on issues. But once that happens, we should not take for granted say we've been brought into power. We must do what is right. Now I believe say if we can do what is right, first of all, to stop this trend of over monetization of politics and the normalization of corruption, because corruption is a disease. Now, like any other disease, so who said no eba, now you don't stop it. Now I start it and you don't manage it. Before you realize it, everything has been destroyed.
No. How do we cure that? Institutions are what the better acquirement, because at this time I hear Kasano, your office of the special prosecutor. It
comes down to political will. In America, when NDC comes in, we all have a duty to support the president to make that happen. Asama Mekan or Tamale, that was one of the core messages that I was trying to put across. Say, can't say we're dealing with corruption now. Man, can't say nipa balcon now obey us. We must all, as individuals and as a collective, Yafa Adrian said this is something we're going to do. And it means that regardless of who is getting involved in it, if it is wrong, it is wrong. We have the structures in place. We have the laws in place. Into a DNT. And I say, Obi, ya, de na, Obi, akoshe, ya, de position, bia, Obi, wako riesika, obeto no, na, ese, it comes into the news for a little while, then it goes quiet. Nipa Chrono continues to live as normal. Now, Obi, Ebia, Sebia, come in now, Okoria, Akoko bi, na ya chino, edi akoshe, and so when Mobashano, Ebia, when ya trial, now still in prison, so it's almost as if we are creating an impression as if justice is fair for some people and not for others. It must be fair for everybody, which means we must be sure so we don't do what we've come to see as the political interference in the pursuit of justice, in the enforcement of the law, which means so why you be nine so you mean you are crap, you must understand the consequence, because once I allow room say, or your madamfo, or your minya, enti munjano, you are setting a trend. You are telling people that it is okay to do the wrong thing. And what you are also saying is that doing the right thing doesn't pay. We must encourage not just one of our positions, no, but your mano sharing. I was so muhu sa example, no, say hard work pays off. that being diligent, having integrity are values and principles that are important, so that they aim for that. But so creating impression, say, oh, you have 419 behavior now, so you are rewarded now. That's the way to go out, which means you're teaching the younger generation that the right thing to do is wrong. Now, if you do the wrong thing and you have somebody who is connected, you are okay. It's not the way we should build our society. And yes, it weakens us as a people.
The okay, could a typical example be say, Obiabura a year forest reserve? Minerals Commissioner about Bontin say, a new council, yes, sir. Now, President of the Republic, Abeka say, no, the who souls are Robert, we need Bonibia. Could that be an example?
That can be example.
But at the end of my president, Akasasa.
Well, I'm not in his head, so I can't say for sure.
Boy, a president,
which is exactly the point I'm making. Entina Meka say, and now you who say ye campaign as NDC. Na John Mahama call round ma promises on how he's going to deal with corruption. We must make sure, say, once we win power, that promise is kept.
Really, a year into Memofono.
Various platforms kasano. Now we have an added duty to make sure that those promises are kept, because all of us are tying our credibility to those statements, because by virtue of association we are saying say we're going to deal with it. Oh, me mom dear.
Scandals are woodway.
Have you ever seen this happening under us like the way you're seeing it here?
Debbie.
This is on a different level. This is on a different level. And I think that courage, I'll be so mampenia now, Onipa Oye Penny, I catch and says, we are passing on a slippery slope now. And see, I will say a check is Saturday, or Abia, Wunayama Wejuma. You are doing the right thing. Your friend can say, Charlie, wait, dear, no patro, the back of a bit, because you can decide that you either continue there and endorse what is wrong, or you can say, then I'm resigning. Then I'm resigning, because means na ha emma mun say me din me obia nim say me suban say na me te de correct no sa na enya me peneso. And you are saying that because nipa krono ye asimesi no nti yenjemu. What about the others? You are setting the precedent for wrongdoing, which means say now one of my system mo on person me ya de panel, they'll just relax. And it's those who are doing the wrong thing who continue to thrive. And that will destroy the country even more. We are not at a point where we can afford to play with this. Well, once upon a time, corruption, no. It was something that you couldn't really relate to, because it seemed like an abstract concept. I say, because they hear any issue, they hear any roads. But all of these things that are not working, it's because there's an issue with how we manage the resources or what people think that they're entitled to. Ade obehwe and say ebia barracks, yesi barracks was so we are saying say we need to increase the number of police for our police service. Obehwe no na from one day to the next no na ye bubu barracks no eden omo to omo free ho obi be sisi adan wo ho. You ask yourself, so previous
omo nomenclature be say ye be redevelop assassin.
Recently, on the floor of Parliament, Kaya, there was an issue relating to the prison service. Minister no ebe responded to question, and the question was to do with some prison barracks as a one person redevelopment biwoho, but they were going to give some of the land to the developer and only a part of it to the prison service. But even the increment in their accommodation was not that much. So the question we were asking, say, now, given, say, we want to add more staff to the prison service, now we'll say, because the person is coming to develop, no, what the assassin and we'll say, this prisons for accommodation, no, manner. You have to ask yourself, so what provision are you making for the future? Because we'll see a quine crap. You build a road with a buffer on the side with the intention, say, there should be room to expand. So if we are saying, say, we want to expand, it is meant for that purpose, no? Would they mo be said because nipa kono say obeba beboa with building whatever accommodation? I don't think that in the long run, or that's something that will be of benefit to the state. And the state, ultimately, when we say the state, now you can say state institutions, no, it's all in the service of this country. Well, and I think that these are some of the things that we should take very seriously.
But you see, Sir President Mahama, and still on the campaign.
Yes.
Sir President Mahama can be said, ne maya ne toso mi no. Baby, obe focus on pa ye governance structure no we retweak said be ye bedi aboye ye na. Say ye ene ye tio. Kwan be so na mobile be ye bedi aboye. E mra ne nsakra ye keke. Anade.
I know I won't go into detail because we are yet to launch our manifesto. Now, I think that, and no specifically, no, he has to speak to it because at the end of the day, by the declaration that will happen in December, so I don't think so. I should.
But on the surface of it,
I believe so. As we sit here, we have 3 arms of government.
Yes.
We have all the institutions, we have agencies, we have ministries. Name it, Ghana has it. Countries that were Africa P came to learn from us, and they've even left us behind because we have a template that works. But unfortunately, I believe, some of the provisions within the Constitution made assumptions on the levels of integrity of office holders. And I feel, in some cases, one of my Atenase yes, I didn't know, constitutional, and done dream Obi Baba Bedi. Oman and now Baba Bedi position more chese or this structures ebebo onwa ne ho to the what is it, expense of
the people of
Ghana. So I don't think that it was really anticipated that level of boldness will be present.
Wow.
And to be quite honest, I think some of us are still surprised at some of the things are yehu. And we're asking, say, inti abako some yeshe ewo Ghana ha say di kanfo wamo ba ye edi kan yes ade nanka nini na ya betu enka ya beba betu ana. And so when it comes to some of those things, it looks as though we must tighten the screws a little bit, so that the amount of wriggle room and are able to justify it using loopholes. We need to look at those loopholes and shut them.
But do you feel pressure be damoso? I mean, I look at your current situation, your debt.
Yep.
Debt a car your dem Meshe Galam said yes, I say and sassy a quiet you.
Yeah.
Moment my way na.
Well, that is exactly the challenge. Enti now, from the onset, make us say, I was a year campaign, because Ghanaians are very discerning. Ghana for and we know the deep hole that MPP has put us in. And I know, they blame to COVID, so to Ukraine for so and what have you. But ultimately, there's a certain portion of responsibility that they must take on. And I think sometimes won't mean first our responsibility to be quite honest, and you are behaving as if we don't know what is happening now. It's a little bit condescending to the people of Ghana. I say but we know exactly what's going on. I believe at this point it's a big job, and if we can start off as we are now, by speaking the truth to Ghanaians, letting Ghanaians know, Asem no say. This is why every time on the floor of Parliament, on our side, your leaders, age now, normally it is to give the facts. This is the state of the economy. This is the actual situation. This and that and that. Said Ghana for who say we are not even going to hide the fact that this is the problem we're in. But you see, when you take on a leadership role in a crisis time, now to me kanokre for Emma who said this is where we are, and come up with creative ways. Oman Ghana in whatever it is that we need to do so that we can come out of this together. Then people understand, things are not good, but progress is being made and we are seeing the efforts being made, which is why Nameka said the issue of tackling corruption in Yamasano is a collective thing.
Yeah.
Inti yent me fan say must be solely responsible. Yes, the buck stops with the president because if you look at the way our constitution is carved out now, ultimate responsibility falls on the shoulders of the president, okay? But at the same time, no, I will say, one of my appointees, advisors, should be able to say, baby, I have no, and yeah, this is what we should do. But you see, the structures are there. Internet last time, I was speaking about the National Development Planning Commission.
Yeah.
When you look at bodies like that, no, it is based on a projection into the future. So when you have a political party, ABA, one must say, one manifesto, no, say, does it align with the National Development Plan for the country? What is our 20-year plan? What is our 50-year projection? And how does it align? Because with all of that, no, it must also be aligned with what is the situation in terms of the economy. So, can't say, be free. Now, fiscal space, no, what? Then it means you'll be borrowing to do it, which means you're putting us greater into debt. Is that what's going to solve our problem? You know, so if you think you're solving a small problem, now in the end, you've created several bigger problems. It means that that solution was not a good one to start with.
So 24-hour economy, are these creative policies a bit Ghana are recover the economy within a short space of time?
I believe so. You see, we're dealing with a multifaceted problem. We have the highest level of unemployment we've seen in a very long time. In fact, probably in the history of this country, combined with the biggest population of young people in Ghana. So it means that this is no longer a mild issue. This is a very severe problem because one of my account group from youth, or the highest productive demographic in our country, is also the largest now, and it's also suffering from the highest levels of unemployment. So it means that you have a problem that must be addressed, and you have to come up with creative ways. So how do you get more people into the workforce? Which means you must create the enabling environment. Utilities must be affordable for industry so that the incentive is there for them to remain open. There must be dependable provision of power supply. There must be incentives in place. One of my Ebefa Adrian said they will participate in a 24-hour economy, for example, no, which means that they're going to have like 2-shift systems or 3-shift system in the production space. No. What are the special incentives so that they understand that they are not going to be rather losing out? What is it that we're going to do with GRA so that they are not overtaxing people who are doing their bit to help the economy get out of this mess? These are some of the ways, because you have a lot of people unemployed graduates. I mean, my goodness.
1.9 million.
It's terrible.
Statistics.
It's terrible. So you see, if you go back to the concept of free SHS, if you were not looking into the future, understanding, say, one of my Elko school, you've increased their number exponentially, and you didn't look on the other side of things, knowing that at the end of a cycle, no, they go into tertiary or whichever level of education after the SHS level, no, you should now expect that you have more people in the workforce. What provision are you making to mop up excess people now? Now you've given them the hope, say, there is hope for them. When you look at the issue of whether any form of governance or long-term planning, it's not about just the project today. It should be about what's the impact of this project you're doing into the future. And it looks as though that wasn't considered well enough. So now you have this ballooned number of people, and then you have on the flip side, because of this issue with the economy, you're overtaxing the same people. Nancy, the number of taxes you are paying, including COVID levy, I personally still don't understand what's going on there. You're asking yourself, say, okay, you're taxing and taxing and taxing the same people, but you cannot tax your way out of a mess like this. You have to come out with creative ways that you would generate revenue. And if you see, getting your revenue from taxing is not a creative way. Frankly, at a time like this, it's one of the harshest ways that you can do it. Because you're in crowd for airbre. A quine ben or befaso ama one more business no it me a grow. Ejina ho so that you don't have this issue of the same people are paying the same amount of tax, they're actually making less. It means that you're not incentivizing growth. Which brings me to the issue of the Women's Bank. So Wosha Ghana, the non-formal sector no. Emma and a Dawson was our sector, holding up the economy. But so sure, the banking sector has not been kind to that group of women. the interest you must pay on it is so high that you realize that it may not even be worth going for that loan. And yet all the research has shown, say, they always pay back. So you're not incentivizing that positive behavior. So having a women's bank is acknowledging the fact that the women of Ghana, especially in the informal sector, are contributing so much to the economy, and you recognize that in empowering them, you are helping to restore the economy to where it ought to be. You can't just tax and tax and tax. Now, say, in such a case, from so far the conversation, and say you're looking at interest-free loans, it changes the narrative completely. It means that fasa loan will grow. You can pay it back, and whatever money is there will profit does not go back into paying the extra interest on the loan. These are some of the ways in which, if we are really very careful and prudent with how we use our resources, we can climb out of this mess that we found ourselves.
Solid messages. I hold about maybe so Titi mo questions amubusa Honorable Dr. Zaneto Ajima Rollins, Member of Parliament, Madichi, or Colleclote, Empress. So, what Colleclote, Yamra, na Yeni Yankomo, and Noma, Yama, Adesha, or Colleclote, Nanomi, who a Jabia no abona said, Yesi, Moa Mo, a man for Mo Boa Basuni, and that from say problem I will be toye, solutions I will my any baby I will drew.
Yeah. I'm say okay, Monko for AEBB on screen, and I hold a asylum down. Now bridge now walk on near snaps. A honor nan crofo in Kola, Omko, cry, any one of my yejumen in Ra Fahono. Sa bridge way a your donor. Say a honor na say in Siotra, one of my was a Sahara Park in Rano, a honor omofa Eddie Free Hono. Now I remember making a complaint about that. That was before the assembly election last year. Me Troy, me send complaints, me send videos, no say assembly, and yes, Jume.
Yeah.
One man ya fe, many assemblyman now wohono. We actually worked together, and I provided the resources, made sure say engineer now will be oversee every assembly because I didn't want them to come up with a reason to not allow the project. In spite of all of that, almost by the police for my instructions, so we enjoy Jumano. I'm telling you.
Adia womono enya momo buano.
Yes, exactly.
Get post for by.
Yes. So to a kokra na at some point, eventually we managed to finish the project, and now the people are able to use it. Well, sometimes you ask yourself, say, are we trying to help the people or not? Because I'm very clear on standards. Juma half and half. Now when you're quiet, Abeka said, it was not the right standard, because people's lives will be endangered if that bridge is not done properly. So other bridge, a ring road. Ring says, so person cross the ring road, from a ringway, a trotro, ring road now. That is a bridge that you use. And also, because it was a problem for pedestrians. Now, one thing is every time a street lights, cleaning equipment, many assembly members a friend saying, hanging around. Electoral areas, 11. Just to understand some of their challenges, because I believe the best form of governance is when you have a collaboration between myself and assembly. And what I've done repeatedly is to make presentations. Now, Zoko schools, a lot of the schools are lacking in furniture. Osu Salem.
Salem, okay.
Yes. Now, Osu, we have a Teacher Mota as well was one of the schools that benefited from furniture, because they really had a lot of things that they didn't have. I had news at the Braka side, presentation said the schools now Osuno could actually come for them, because that's where the directorate is, education directorate. Now the Braka cluster of schools as well, we made donations there, in fact, to most of the schools, because what I do is I go and inspect the basic schools. Now mene womo a circuit supervisors one more impending for and a call round, because it's important say one of my cancer education directorate understand that I'm not trying to bypass or undermine them. Whatever I'm doing is to support what they do. I make sure say I maintain a very good relationship with,
but I almost see because a bridge day.
Yes.
So what said that a chasse Omaya Jumabum, in spite of.
Because at the end of the day, we must deliver.
Wow.
We must deliver on results. Inti said, Nipa Krono ye mesa krapo, me no beko, but I will still work with them because ultimately the people must not suffer because enyame party na wo power so and this is the Osu Maternity Hospital. Equipment I had call includes the UV light, ne cot, no, ne electrophoresis machines, ne ultrasound machines, ni na yede call. That was also procured by myself through the fund to make sure say one of my alcohol no, because I went on the tour of the clinics as well, and that was one of the complaints that they had, that they don't have a means to do the blood tests on the newborn babies, and some of them are jaundice no. They have to transfer them to other hospitals, but if they have the equipment, they omit me and kolano ho. Ni Doppler machines ni na for antenatal checks no normally so I will say one a kolano heartbeat, and a Doppler machine is what you use.
So how did you come to appreciate more problem? Now we didn't so compare one side wedo. Woko mon China woko di nkomo ansa.
Ane. Say well. Yes. And yes, you cannot actually make provision for what is important.
Strategy yes say.
And no one American because ultimately you must find out what it is that people need. Want to me ent na baby wa fa adwen say encro electoral area no we here. No, you must do that kind of engagement. Into all of this is based on a needs assessment. Now health screening na na fibiano, it's also based on that. Me a doctor by profession. Into health is something I take very seriously. Into I know say a lot of people who have a lot of health challenges no womunya kwai enko hospital, whether for financial reasons mostly. Into health screening na the doctors eba na the pharmacists eka home with the free medication. Said the beya so na it's like a mobile hospital. Bibia whether it's glasses or said we make sure we see everything through to the end, and we don't send you to go and buy drugs. You get the medication there, whatever is prescribed just to make sure say we are closing that whole cycle of health. Na odona a market no say enka ho a titia say no saying so to na attention. Oh my goodness. A man no ti ho that just a said yes.
Wow.
Yes. And unfortunately waiting for the assembly to act and also and I raise funds and I did truckloads of gravel just to make sure say they are at least operating in a slightly more dignified environment.
Okay. Emerson for you boy kakra.
Yes.
Ko baby na ye nyamfa emosia ne ngu ho no. Na yenhwe se de na efom ositie. Dika kwati kakra mama. Say na net. So imagine say
pension
toy. Where we are bremu and as I have my time bremu.
Yeah. Now even with that no say and from aboka krabia na just say futro no aye ho nyinra what ko gina ho a wenni honestly one more break
and one kasa wo ko fam hu no ye me
oh I go there all the time so wow. I know, but sometimes you wonder because and until now sometimes I speak about this issue of good governance because also your local governance system. Oh, let me quickly speak about this. We know a plastics to fuel project any University of Ghana, any French embassy just say and no ye seen the empoano osu hono which is where this is the final when plastics are bottles ne sachet water nyina so all the gusa machine you get petrol, diesel, cooking gas, and you can get charcoals from the bottle tops. Indeed, this was a project we wanted to create a different kind of like a circular economy around plastic waste because there is a benefit to it, but it's about making the community benefit from so that they understand the direct link between keeping the environment clean, clearing the plastics, and turning it into something that's useful to them. You can actually put the petrol in your car.
And this one, without asking you, I am very sure say when your solution were based on probably maybe and sure better.
Yes.
And they said you plastic waste. Say gugu got my idea we buy on.
Papa, because for me, there's always a solution, but you must find a solution that's a win-win solution. You're getting something that is positive for the environment, but the community involved, a home for so
community
this particular community, because it's a fishing community, there's a lot of scandal around this pre-mix issue. We thought, why not see how we can start providing them with something like this so that they're actually getting some extra, source of fuel and even cooking gas, which is what this was about. Unfortunately, first sight now, we had a major issue. Almost bubu, almost train my year foundation in na bubu, almost security den. Back and forth, and eventually, my call beyond a certain perimeter. Meanwhile, initially, my inquiry say but whatever reasons people pick, ultimately the job has been done, and no day.
By a political reason,
I think partly.
Send this in ANT.
It's unfortunate. It's just unfortunate. So I'm saying some stoves, stoves now me or Osu night market, recently, Ministry of Education so Emma Accra High in a boarding house status. Now women need proper kitchen facilities. Now, I think they were celebrating their 100th anniversary. And I said that as a member of parliament, also very interested in health, also interested in the environment. And I'm my pledge to the school was that I would provide the cook stoves, retrofitted, reduced emission cook stoves. Said one of my will not be exposed to all the smoke there, because I actually went to the kitchen and honestly, it wasn't nine
Wow.
And we actually measured the emissions at the time over there. It was very high, abnormally high, the kind that you should not be exposed to. Yes. And stoves now you see also a technology that is local from the University of Ghana as well. Wow. Actually, the group here, one more Africa and UST.
Okay.
Yeah, it was built on site based on the volume of, the amount of cooking that would be done. Very efficient. You're not using as much fuel to actually fire it up, and because it's so efficient, cooking time is less, which means a man don't have to come as early to work and don't have to leave so late, which was something they pointed out to me, because I was thinking about the smoke exposure. Now when we finished doing it, we cut the ribbon and everything. One more penny matron, I can say, they were very grateful about the reduced exposure to smoke. But she mentioned something else, which I just mentioned, that mandarin, that particular aspect of it. So because it takes less time to cook on these stoves, now they are able to also go home a bit earlier. And you see, sometimes you put in an intervention like this, and it has a knock-on effect on the whole family of that person involved. These are the things that we're looking to do. Proper interventions that touch beyond this small immediate community, beyond and these are some of the ways that we looked at.
As a electricity one as light, street lights once.
And also, as you know, that is supposed to be done by the assembly. But unfortunately, when I go around in Krofokasa, you realize that sometimes a refor snatching Crawford phones, ne bags, and the main reason is because the streets are dark. Some of the streets where it's possible, ma electricians na install street lights, one of my was our area to make sure that we're at least trying to enhance the level of security because it's just one of those important things as a very important intervention, and it seems like something small, but when you're walking on the street you see the difference when there's a light put there. These are things that I've been doing for years. A lot of people don't even realize the lights are warm so what I try to do is we get the elderly people together in the community from the different electoral areas. Baby Kukro. And now I feel we did it in two different sectors because it was easier than bringing all the people to the Osu side. If one of my Osu sector anyone share, and one of my war at the Baraka sector share separately, and it's just to let the elderly people know we haven't forgotten about them. Anyone we danced, they gave their advice about how advice to me about Ejumana me yeah, the provisions, Emma Womo, but we provided food over there and dancing and so on, just to sometimes encourage them. You see, sometimes what people don't realize is, so when you be now, you were very active. Na ebi a wako pension, wabo akokra, now wo fear. Sometimes you can get depressed.
Yeah.
Na mental health, idea, we don't really pay enough attention to it. And sometimes it's just letting people know that you see them, you know they're there, you appreciate them. And I believe, say, we are here today because one of my edi kaino, who are now old, they gave something for us to be here today. Wow. And the least we can do is to acknowledge them and appreciate them when possible.
Wow.
Indeed, that is something that I do just as a way of saying thank you. When it's possible.
Wow. And appreciation of Niawo, I mean, yes, I see a boy, say, Mama, and I say, yeah, show, boss, say, yeah, 2 amount. But only a month for Din Koma. Sometimes the people of Koleklote.
I think in general, sometimes will be who's the distinction between beyond our means. So even sa common fund no get fund ni nana ebano and mention you echo assembly no account move. So even to access that I have to officially write say, as member of parliament, I need the common fund X amount in Crawford way na se whether it's school fees or say ye nkonya they call a schools no say math set to say den you say equipment for a clinics nini na e was say me ye letters e was say metro krata e comma assembly na nipa obehwe sa letters any MCE Sometimes the letters get lost, sometimes they get delayed, but I don't give up because ultimately, I must deliver.
Very well. Yeah, then common is because SMP or one ya and Kababro Swansana at the Krachi. But we had this, at the end, I'll pass the people of Koleklote and the Ghana who was Sabre a year Kwakotwaba. Case Ben Aomiki.
I must say, baby, I journal. I don't actually need to say much because we can all see what is going on. Na shepatia odi nukre. Patia enya propaganda na yedi ye juma. Nukre die no ene ehiame. Because we really need to change the narrative in our politics. Na election na yekono, minimse tension no ye very, very high. Because obi awaba wegu mino or si breaky 8. Yes, so your opposition, yes, so you can imagine that right now tension is very high. Nonetheless, Ghana for because Ghana is this beloved country, and we do not to allow it to be compromised by anything. Especially, let's be vigilant. So area bimuna ebia on that day yes Saturday most people will not be at work. Na so adaje od betimi hanging around when it's time to count the ballots that's fine. So what you'll be at say you have taken an interest in the electoral process. Na ebia you would like to be a polling agent. It's not too late. You can volunteer whether it doesn't matter where you are. So we juma ewo banku, so we new, whatever it is. If your interest is there, now you are able to grasp it, and you are willing to volunteer as a polling agent. Specifically, in my case, my cancer for NDC, for example. It's important to do so. We need to make sure, say, this process is not being left, say, and no de obifo front. We must all get involved because ultimately, what happens on that day, affects all of us. I think just to add, I actually forgot to mention, say, Saturday. Free health screening ampa and no said who pictures now was screen also we're doing that. We have the medical team coming into say now you have a health challenge or you even want to just check your blood pressure check your blood sugar malaria. We'll be doing everything, women's checks and everything, and the idea behind that is to make sure say the fact that the NHIS is not delivering in terms of money on the card to give you the services you need, we are not giving up. We are providing you with that service free of charge.
Kamala Harris and Aminene Kasai. Oh, sorry. Honorable Dr. Zaneto, Ajima Rollins and Aminini Dim Komo, and Opaywo, Dwabo Power 97.9. Honorable. It's always a pleasure talking to you on Radio Sony TV. So, Eti, If you be any, na okay.
You never bring a campaign now. You're in a ringway honum.
Wow. It will fear
everywhere.
Any amount for you come.
Oh yes.
Na what did you would you?
Mrs. Adan and I come bear them Yeah, inti mami a ringway or tone, you know. No, it was very, very good.
Wow.
Yeah. In fact, I'm very suspicious. Nipa try a picture me or something. By now, dear, at the time, no, it was a lot cheaper. But look at what's happening. You walk close, so we have rain, we have good land. Look, listen, all you have to do is throw something and it will grow.
Yeah.
And yet, food prices are through the roof. It just doesn't make sense.
Anyway, next time you better was so free.
Mate.
It did not buy him person. I had them person behind them. Yeah,
my constituency now, but just to add, say, last election, no, and the election before, no, there was something that used to happen. I just want to bring attention to it, which was people defacing my posters and removing my posters. We are in an election season where it's campaign season. Wow, person do poster no better baby no. You should be free to do so. But don't think, say, removing somebody's posters is the way to go. Because to be very honest, we're taking a very, very strong position on this. Why? I bet you will not have it easy.
Simple.
So please, if you want to put your posters up, do that. But stay away from pulling people's posters down. Because say, you can't say you're going to route now, it will not be easy for people. Because measurements na ho emma obi a odwen say ono na was ono no poster no etire ho na chese me na opese oyi media no free ho. I don't think that's fair. I don't think that is creating a healthy environment. Let's allow for a harmonious campaign process. Na say at the end of it, no, whatever the outcome is, we celebrate and we give thanks to God.
Very well. Yeah. Thank you so much. Dr. Zaneto Ajiba Rollins now telling can remember Parliament ma this year a year colleague clotte and she has this infectious smile. Oberhasa, bonjour, da Kwame Paul, Parliament money versus here, King Nicholas, I crado one dan Kabekasa da Butri, da Late, era Vezo DJ Chaka. It was great having all of you. Yapon, Yebechatra, bye bye.